Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. The process of de-dollarization, whereby nations which are at odds with the United States are seeking to subvert the dollar's world reserve status and also its status as the primary tool of international exchange, is moving forward. Most recently, on Friday, we got this joint announcement by Vladimir Putin and President Erdogan of Turkey that Russia and Turkey now will be working together to boost cooperation in the realm of transport, agriculture, finance, and construction. And part of this deal is that a portion of Turkey's purchases of natural gas from Russia will be paid for in rubles. Now, we're all familiar with several months ago when Vladimir Putin made this announcement that unfriendly nations would have to pay for their gas in rubles. And this was part of an attempt by Russia to shield those payments for natural gas from Western sanctions. Now, it doesn't appear that Russia considers Turkey to be an unfriendly nation as they're announcing all of this cooperation together, but when Turkey pays for their gas with rubles, it does help to shield those payments from Western sanctions, and it helps to ensure that Russia receives full payment. And one very likely catalyst for this agreement is Turkey's desire to avoid any interruption of their supply of Russian gas. They import about half of their natural gas supplies from Russia, and Turkey is already dealing with a very high inflation rate. It's about 80% year over year. In fact, if we go over here and we look at the price of gold and silver priced in Turkish lira over 5 years, you can see that the chart looks a lot better than the US dollar chart. And if you're in Turkey and you've invested in gold and silver, then you're doing pretty well for yourself, and the precious metals are hedging your purchasing power. But regardless, the inflation rate there is very high, and that is certainly something which Erdogan is concerned about, as high inflation can lead to civil unrest, and any government's going to be concerned about that. And the whole situation is kind of interesting because Turkey is a NATO member. They have been since 1952, but they're kind of cozying up to Russia as well, so it's kind of hard to say where they sit. But the important thing when you look at this situation is to realize that these countries that are ostensibly allies of the West, like Turkey, NATO member for 70 years, you'd think they'd be pretty firmly in the West camp. But when push comes to shove and the economic reality manifests itself, Turkey is going to pursue its own self-interest. They're not going to put their alliance to the U.S. and Europe ahead of their need for energy. And this is something that we really need to be paying attention to, because the dollar status as the world reserve currency, the whole petrodollar system, it's not up to the U.S. to decide if the dollar is the world reserve currency. It's up to the world. Even though taken individually, these slow moves away from the dollar as a means of international payment settlement and of reserve holdings, they're not that significant individually, but taken as a whole, they really represent a threat to the dollar as the world reserve currency. And, that is critical, because the whole dollar as the world reserve currency as a fiat paper money that we can create and export and that the rest of the world is willing to accept, that's kind of the backbone of our whole economic system. And this delineation between East and West that Zoltan Pasar was forecasting back in March, it's really beginning to play out in a big way. This is an article from the Global Times. Now, this is a Chinese publication, so, you got to take this all with a grain of salt. But really, this article is just reporting on some facts, and it gives us a long list of countries who are signing up now to join the BRICS economic group. Now, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And pretty soon they're going to need a longer acronym, because the list of countries joining BRICS or applying to join BRICS includes Algeria, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt. So, obviously some pretty critical players there. And the BRICS nations, they control a tremendous portion of the world's raw materials. They have a tremendous portion of the world's population, and it looks like that is just going to grow. And, there aren't too many Western nations invited to join this union. The United States certainly hasn't been invited. And this is just a sign that the lines are being drawn very clearly between East and West. And this is going to be a major threat to dollar hegemony moving forward. So, I'm doing what I can to get prepared. That's why I'm stacking gold and silver. If the dollar loses its world reserve status, then, the charts for gold and silver in US dollars are going to start looking a lot like the chart for gold and silver in Turkish lira. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think that this trend is going to continue, or do you think that we're going to go back to the old normal way of doing things? And do you think that there is a real threat to the dollar status as the world reserve currency? Thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, everybody, and I will catch you next time. Smart Silver Stacker, out.